All right, well, congratulations on almost being finished week one.
Okay.
So for those of you listening in online, week one we didn't really do a whole lot in Tableau. It was actually a lot of drawing with crayons and markers and learning about data visualization best practices and doing makeovers by hand. And their project for this week is to look at their applications for the data school and make those over based on what they learned this week. So first up is Natasha. And I will pass control to you. Okay, and then click on. Can we see her desktop? Sweet. I think I kicked you out.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're going to make this work.
Yeah, no.
So let me just give you the meeting number. The meeting number is 343 329 053. Okay, and now just hit OK. And then let me make you the presenter. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay, minimize this.
You're up.
Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Natasha, and today I'm going to start with our presentation about what vizzes we did to apply for the data school and how we redesigned it for a few weeks. Sorry, days, not weeks. But it feels like a few weeks. So this is my initial application. So I created this viz specifically to apply for the data school. And now when I look at it and I try to see why I created it, and basically the answer is to apply to the data school. So there is like just a bunch of data which shows in some graphs, and there is really a bit unclear. So when I look at it now, I think there is like two maps. It's a bit confusing, some lines. So I would say that that it's actually quite unclear what to do here. And the question is like, why am I showing this? So there is like no story underneath that. But I do think that there is quite a few good points to my visualization. So first it's so this data is about London bike hires, and it's quite interactive. So if you can click on some stations, you can explore it more. So I think that this is good because it can be personalized, so everyone can relate to the area where they live, to like where they live or where they work or where they go near. So it's kind of like more personal experience. And again, here is quite a lot of data, and which you can also go into details to explore. That's probably about all which is good about this viz. Thank you. And so also, as you can see, here is like not clean tooltips, some weird colors, so which I addressed in my revisualization.
Makeover.
Makeover, yeah.
Easier to say.
Yeah. I'm like Rachel, I can't pronounce. So here is a redesigned makeover. When I was trying to do a makeover, I was trying to do, okay, what else is here except that I use this data to apply it for data school. So I started to look at it. And the data is, I use the historical data, not the API for this application. And there is not much data. There is basically just where people start their journey, where they end, and at what time. So I also, yeah, that's basically. So when I start to think about this data, it's actually what this data is good for is to show, to answer the question, where bikes are hired and when. So I started to look at, I decided to leave the map with a little bit different version of it, so you can see, use the size instead of the color, so you can more quickly see where, at what stations, what area of London bikes are hired more. Also, a little heat map shows when they are hired. And also, when I did that, immediately there is a pattern emerged, and there is some key insight into the data is that half of the bikes, or even sometimes even more than half of bike rentals are during rush hour in the morning and in the evening. And it's basically, sometimes it's 50%, like for aggregate data. For the week, it's 2/3 of the time people hire a bike during this few rush hour hours. So I also left the number of total bike hires to preserve a context, and where people cycle to as well, and how many journeys were made there, just to give a bit of a reference point. Again, you can click. Click on some station, and yeah, so and it changes and shows the information about this particular station. So again, you can explore, relate to the station which you're using, or which is close to some location known to you.
That's interesting, because that station in particular, you now see some places where bikes are never hired, which is really interesting. In the heat map, you see the white blocks. That means there's none.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
I also think that while you explore, I think there is some stations which are heavily commuting station, like for example Waterloo. So if you go here to Waterloo, you can see they used only in the morning.
So and this is the origin, right? This is where they start.
Yes, this is where they start. Okay. This is basically where they
So I bet
go.
if you had the other opposite data set with where they end, it would probably all be in the PM. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. But they also, I exclude the rebalancing, so here is no rebalancing transaction.
That's
so
when the trucks come and refill
yes.
Okay, I see them all the time in the morning.
Yeah, so this is just like real usage.
Yeah.
Or if we go closer to...
Could you look at Finsbury Cross? Because loads of people from Waterloo were going to Finsbury Cross, so if we looked at Finsbury Cross,
Where
we
is
were
that?
going back to Waterloo. That was going to be one of my pieces of feedback.
Well, I had this, I wanted that my original was to preserve a little search box, yeah, but Andy said that it's a double thing, so I removed it. It's kind of, well, you know where the station is roughly, and you can go over and...
Do you know where Finsbury Cross is?
No.
Oh, well, there we go. Anyway, I'll shush.
She can blame that one on me, like she did.
It's all right, we'll test Andy as well in a minute.
It's in London, isn't it?
Well, but you can log into the link and explore it yourself and check all the stations you're interested in.
Oh, touche.
Yeah, so to continue this, for example, these stations which are in the West End, I guess people don't commute there as much, so they just...
They commute back from there, it looks like. It looks like
No, they start their journey in the evening.
Right, so they probably commute from somewhere else to there by bike in the morning, and then they're leaving there to go back home in the evening.
Maybe they're just
like the opposite of
working
Waterloo.
and have a leisure
Could be,
stroll in
yeah,
the evening.
But it's almost the opposite pattern of Waterloo, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if I try and click towards like Hyde Park, you can see it's mostly the weekends.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically you can click at the station and see how it's used and maybe plan accordingly. So yeah.
Very good. I really like how you switched to the red. and it's very minimal use of color, which I think is good. It's just shades of red basically.
Yeah.
And I like how you ended up putting the bike. Looks like it's riding on top of the bar. I think that looks pretty cool. Was that intentional?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't, just say yes. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really neat. The heat map is I think the heat map's much better than your previous one that had the line chart. It's much easier, at least for me, to see the patterns.
Yeah, heat map's great.
It really makes those stand out. Because Jonathan, you have yours is the bikes. Is yours?
Electricity. So yeah, my most recent Tableau Public Quiz is on.
No. Didn't you download? Is this data set bar spikes?
Oh yeah. The bar spikes one.
Okay, so this would be a similar kind of data set that you use.
This is different because this is looking at journeys,
Okay.
whereas mine is the number of bikes available at each station.
Yeah, that's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think the number of bikes is like a live data which you can
Okay.
get through API. This is just historical data.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think that it goes back to like the start. You can
Okay.
get any data before.
So going back to Carl's feedback about the station, I think actually Carl maybe is not putting a filter on there. I think it's turning the highlighter on.
I like it all parameter because I think it'd be really interesting to once I see that.
But if
Okay,
you
in
do
this example that the Hyde Park corner is where most people cycle to. What I want to know from this is actually how far away is that? Is that just a little 5-minute journey, or is that biking across London? Because there's something about okay, you're saying people are commuting and it's used heaviest in the most commuting times. How far are people travelling?
But this
where
doesn't
are
have
they
that
going
data. It doesn't have the origin and destination. It only has where.
It says where most people cycle to.
Yeah,
From
it's
that station.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah. Oh,
So I think
see
it's kind of
what you're
knowing, going to Natasha's point around, or your question around, do they come back in the
I see.
evening? That's exactly what I want to know as well.
yeah,
So
it's
if you took the triangle car park and you did the distance from there to, it looks like almost.
no one goes far.
Yeah,
Everyone
nobody
goes
goes far.
back to
They
the same
almost put
point.
it back to where they picked it up.
Yeah, or
Tourists probably don't know they
Well-
can drop it off somewhere else.
where we saw Finsbury Park earlier, and it was from Waterloo.
Yeah.
It's either seeing that as distance travel, because that's really interesting. 'Cause
Well, distance is quite difficult because you don't know. Like for example, here they go
No, but
from
you
the
could-
same
you could-
station to
you
the
could
same
do-
station.
You could do as the bird flies, and there's lots of other things you can do around that. But anyway, not going there. But it's if you can't do distance, then what else can you do to show that? And actually
Time, yeah.
finding where that station is really easily across the rest of the dashboard.
Because
does
your original when you click on a
Yes. So
origin, it shows you the destination map as well, right?
yeah. So the problem was here that so original shows the destination on the map. So when I showed this to a couple of my friends, they asked. It didn't have the map. They just asked, "Oh, where is this station? Where are they going to? Is this far? Is this just around the corner?" So I had to put a map. But the thing is that the data set it treats this as one sort of line. But to make a path, you need to do 2 lines, and this is something which you do easily in Alteryx, or like other software. So at the time of application, I wasn't like duplicating every
Right,
row
right.
by hand. So
Yeah.
I think I can make over this again after.
Sure.
Yeah.
At the end.
Good idea.
In a future iteration, you could totally do that.
Yeah. So.
But I think if you flip back over to your other one now, I think you tell a much more cohesive story the way that you've kind of laid it out, where you've got the big numbers that kind of give you the overall context, and then drilling into, and this is interesting because your numbers change, right? So only 28% were during rush hour for this
Yeah.
station. Where can you click on Waterloo again? But I'm thinking so Waterloo is probably going to be like 74%, right? So that's still near Waterloo, yeah. But I think with the highlighter, Carl, it would highlight the station, and then you could click on it where a parameter, you probably use it more as a filter, which I think probably.
I would use parameters to highlight.
Well, why not
you
just
put
use the
that onto the
highlighter
drawing.
then?
Oh, can do.
It's an extra step. That's the whole purpose of highlighter. It's not
Yeah.
to use a parameter for highlighting.
You could just do map search, but anyway,
Yeah.
you should set up there. So,
Yeah, I mean, we had the map search on there, and it looked like it could make things worse.
Yeah, because when you leave
Yeah.
it there and it shows one station, but then you select another one and it's
And you move
different
away.
names and it's yeah.
It got really confusing pretty
And
quick.
with my 2 maps, it gets even more confusing.
I
at the
agree
beginning.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Multiple
good.
maps do have a purpose, but I agree with the makeover you've done. You've actually simplified it and you've made it a lot clearer.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me that I always look for with Tableau and any solution is, I've got this question, I've got an answer, but that leads to another question. Can I go and answer that? Because your point is here, it's all about commuting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's cool about commuting, but of course there's more journeys probably likely to happen in commuting. So what, are they near or far journeys? It's kind of like, I want to see a little bit more of that next question available to answer.
Sure.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the next iteration of it then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be also a cool idea.
Okay.
And just the last point is I also fixed my tooltips, so they all look nice now.
Cool.
Very proud of that.
Yeah.
Good. And make sure you guys publish I know we're presenting from Tableau Server. This is practice for publishing in Tableau Server, but make sure you publish in the Tableau Public as well. Both, don't overwrite your old version, publish it as a new version.
Yeah.
So
All right.
you make it into the day, who knows.
Thank you.
All right, good job. Laura, you are next. It should be asking you, Laura, to make you presenter. Oh, you have to do the same thing she did. That's okay, just click on that.
Okay.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Do it through here.
And that's what I'm in right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So do let's do okay.
I find that really
Yes, this isn't the right. I think I just kicked you out. Oh, right.
Yeah. Maybe it'll work.
There we go.
Okay.
So it's the number you want to enter is 343-329-053. Once I see you join, I'll make you presenter again.
Okay.
So
Well,
is
while
it
we're
waiting,
doing-
is it waiting for your name? So I will now make you presenter, and it should just prompt you. Did it ask you?
Yep. Here we go. Are we seeing?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So I'm Laura, and this is the viz that I created for my data school application. And you can tell that I've had or very limited experience with Tableau Public at the time. For example, I didn't know that floating objects don't show up very well when you publish things. So I did all this fancy stuff in my dashboard and just sent it up to Tableau Public and couldn't really figure out why everything wasn't where I thought it would be.
Yeah, so in general, when you're publishing out to either server or to public, either do everything tiled or everything floating, but don't mix the two, because floating things move around. They'll move around a few pixels or resize, and it's kind of just a pain. So it's not what you see is what you get.
Now I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the data set that I used was from actually I think it was the data school advent calendar you guys had.
Okay.
So it was Bismuth, and so for every day there was a different data set, and this was day one. Sophia Sparks published a data set on the global heights. So I was looking at how tall you are compared to other generations. And I have a little text here. We've all gotten taller over the last century, but if you'd like to see how you rate to your fellow countrymen, select the appropriate sex over here from the drop down, and then click on your country. So, women.
Oh my gosh, that's so weird how the filter looks.
Right? It just moves every.
Yeah.
So, it's okay. In the United States, it's still on men somehow.
Oh,
I thought I clicked women, but
you did, but Tableau public refreshed your face.
yeah, not so. And then we're looking at decade of birth. Anyway, so when I went to revisit this or make it over,
So what do you not like about it?
I don't like that these are floating and you can't really tell the only way you can tell what sex I've selected in the filter is because I've made the titles of the charts below dynamic.
Okay.
So to update for height of men versus height of women and then the country that you click. I didn't like that I was forcing the data into decades because it's an annual, you can see every single year. The only reason I decided to do decades was because I really wanted a map. And with the map taking up this much space on the top, and you have every year from 1886 to 1996 on the bottom, it just looks incredibly busy. So.
Okay.
Just to be able to have this be much smaller.
Okay.
But what it does is kind of makes, so it's an average for the decade, but it makes some countries look like they're like shrinking very drastically. Okay. If you click on one of the negative ones. So, right? So I don't think that that's actually, I don't think that that's an accurate representation of the data.
Okay. It looks like, I don't know if you noticed, but the text on your title's cut off.
Yes.
Like the tails and the
that's
letters.
The other thing.
Same thing at the bottom. It's something designed by half of you, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Because it cuts you off at the bottom.
And the line graph doesn't go down to 0. Is that?
It doesn't have to, but I think
it's
if you didn't notice that, this might look a bit confusing. Yeah, is that kind of what you're getting to? How it's kind of, it's over extenuating the change. Yeah.
So this is what I think this is the correct.
Yeah, just hit the little full screen.
Full screen. Okay, so this is it now. So I wanted to keep the same story, which is trying to look at how tall you are compared to your generations. And the other thing I didn't like about the original one was that you had to look and find out where you were. There was no really easy way to place yourself within the data set. Mm-hmm. So, and I've now changed the filters to be in a container, which is much more intuitive. So instead of just sex, select sex. So
it's an instruction, basically.
It's an instruction, right?
Yeah.
So right now we're actually looking at my dad.
Sure.
Oh no, sorry, this is with my mom's height.
Especially for you.
No, he is short, but we're in the United Kingdom.
I like how you've made this more about, because your question is how tall are you?
Yes.
You've made it much more personal now with the way you've done the filtering and stuff on there.
He's 177, not 167. So he's actually
spot
on average for
such an average
for
guy.
people born in his year. And then up top, to just put this into even more context, because you can really only look at one country at a time via the selector. I have this sort of tallest, just a selection of countries, but we start with the tallest and you end with the shortest country in the data set. And then just a few interesting ones in between, so you can kind of see or think, where am I?
How are the interesting ones to find? Were they just your personal choice for the interesting?
I looked at the kind of, what I wanted was a nice dropped like this. I didn't want ones that were either all at the top or all at the bottom or in the middle. So I kind of looked at the distribution of all countries and then just picked ones with kind of short names or names that I could edit to fit nicely here. And then instead of having this access here, which looked cluttered and busy and you couldn't read the words, I decided to put the labels in the bars themselves, which I thought was much cleaner and much simpler and is more engaging, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's good. I really like how you included the bands around that. It really looks, I think that looks really, really sharp. And then using the red for, the information you enter makes it, at least for me, it makes that, I like how that's a different color because then you can clearly tell that that's kind of what you entered.
So if we wanted to look at, we're looking at my dad now, if we want to look at how tall my mom is. Well, she was 167. And she was born. Nope. Got my dates. So she is much taller.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Were the confidence levels part of the data?
Yeah.
Do you need to put the actual date of birth in, or could it have just been a year select instead? Does it make any difference whether it's the actual day or just the year?
Your
Pick
first?
your year of birth.
Yeah,
rather than actual
year.
I think it makes it more personal if you put your date of birth.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in order to make this, to spread this out evenly, I took the years and I made them all dates. So, because it was just number of year, it wasn't an actual date. So I made them all July 1st, so to be kind of smack in the middle of the year. So July 1st, all of this, and then.
Right, so in order to use that as a reference line, you have to have the other axis as a date. Otherwise, you could have just made it if you did just years and they entered year, then you don't have to make it a date. Yeah. And I like how you changed the color for when you pick female. It changes the color of the bars.
Yes, and it changes the country. Netherlands is still at the top, but Latvia. So that's why Latvia is in there. If you were looking at the men before and you're like, why Latvia? It's like I had to choose the top and the bottom for both.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Guatemala.
Guatemala and
they're tiny.
Yeah.
Very good. I think it's much cleaner.
Okay. Any other questions? Or
I would put your filters at the top because it actually affects all of your
I think
dashboards. Where at the moment, when I first looked at the selections you made, I couldn't actually see whether it affected the country bars above.
Right.
So she was asking if she really needs the bars at the top. I think they provide.
I think it's a nice little bit of
I
context.
thought it was just interesting.
I would just show the top 5 and bottom 10. Top 5, bottom 5. Because, especially on the males, you see a little bit more differentiation with females, but on the males, it all looks very similar. So actually,
they are similar.
They are.
Top 5 and bottom 5. It's the same number.
But I think if you saw the true differentiation, rather than selecting across the distribution, then you're naturally going to get such a general curve that's really hard for the eye to perceive. Whereas if you saw the top 5 and bottom 5, I think you'd see to Neil's point,
I
think that little bit more.
What I wanted, the other countries that I chose, they were just.
I get you picked countries.
But yeah, I wanted it to look like that. But I see what you're saying. I should have, if I had more time, I would have thought a little more about it.
When I sat at the back of the room, it just looked like you just got 10 or so boxes across the top. I didn't actually get that you meant that was hiding because it was so imperceivable to see. So,
no, true. Okay,
good.
That's good feedback.
I would have just maybe as well have, so if you pick in US on your country list, it actually maybe highlights US in the top bar, just so you can focus it. And if your country doesn't appear, maybe it appears in the range somewhere. Wherever.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
One other subtle thing so when you change the bar color, the men are blue, so I assumed that those blue lines at the bottom went with men.
Yes.
So what might be better is to make the confidence intervals like gray, and then make the line in the middle the color of whatever gender you pick.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's smart.
But that's very minor. But It just helps with the
All the
colors.
instruction, yeah. No,
They're really simple.
It's really good.
all right.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Well done. Jamie, you are next. Next victim. Did it ask you to present?
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Jamie. Basically, I've done a little slight twist this makeover Monday or makeover for week
Thursday.
one for the data school. So basically, I'm looking at my interview application rather than my original application towards the data school. So this is what I produced for my original application for the first round of applications. So it's looking at these ESPN's greatest hitters versus MLB history. So you're just going through the hits. So are ESPN greatest hitters, are they the top or the best in history? So there's the 99th percentile. So it's just showing Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, Hank Rosen, Aaron, and Ted Williams. So it just gives a lowdown on that. But in my opinion, I thought that was okay for original. And then I also just put that one in just as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the map's gone.
Oh, interesting.
Don't know where it was just on there a minute ago.
Yeah, that's weird.
Part of it.
Yeah, it's shrunk to the
Try
bottom.
refreshing it maybe or something. Just try refreshing your screen.
Trump's broken everything.
Oh, it looks like you can see Alaska down the bottom.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it
It's
is.
kind of, yeah. So yeah, those are my other bits I gave in for the interview process. So you can second month, you can go through the journey how the state's swayed by the Clinton or Trump in that sense there. Then if you wanted to look at your state, how it swayed throughout the process, it just gives you a background of how that state went. For example, Illinois.
Was this the Makeover Monday data set?
Yeah. And then, so to my interview process, this was the original dashboard that I created. It's just poor overall. It's just rubbish. I'm not gonna lie. It's horrendous.
You covered a lot of visualization types.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, it's especially this middle bit. Yeah. So I just didn't like the line graph or what. I don't know what I was trying to do down here, but yeah, that's.
So what is it, Jamie? What's it trying to show?
The energy use for each building over the time period, so from July 2013 to January 2017, just different buildings, parliament buildings over the year, so their energy consumption. So my original thought was,
So it just felt kind of too busy to you, right?
yeah, so my original parameters were, my target audience was for the general public. So I wanted something quite clean, simple, something to use so they can digest the information quite quickly and just make their own opinion on certain buildings or certain sites. So I tried to create it simply, but it's not actually working. So I created So I went away yesterday, just played around with it, and that didn't work either. So I tried to keep the original kind of thing together and just tried to put September on the top, but that didn't work either. So I thought it was quite still busy. So I went on.
So you kept iterating?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then this is one I created for the final process. So I tried to, engaging the audience basically, I gave them a nice title, just a simple title, How Efficient Are Parliament Buildings, gave them a carbon footprint, and then a logo just to highlight Her Majesty's government's buildings there. It gives an overall picture of the process of all the buildings, the total energy cost, and total carbon impact, and how they progress over the years or decreases over the years. And then also on there, you have the options for what Parliament buildings. So you can go further down. If you really want to go further down and look at certain buildings, you can on the top half there. So for the second half, I looked at the journey of government buildings of energy consumption over time. So to try and give it some geographical representation, I used the map and tried to use these lines to try and pinpoint the actions, but it didn't quite work. So
because that's supposed to be for the one slightly above it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is some of it floating and some of it's tiled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
So I should have used annotations. The
Well,
annotation
you could,
box.
or if you float everything, then when you publish it, it'll stick in its position. Yeah.
So yeah.
Tool tip
Yeah.
when it comes up.
I think so.
Yeah, I really like what you did there though, with that how you're kind of having the spark lines pointing out from those lines. I think the idea is really good.
Yeah, the idea is there, it's just the execution.
Yeah.
It's alright, it's week 1, it's not week.
No, and then just further down, just going further down the dashboard, what factors contribute to these energy consumption, the energy consumption within Parliament buildings. So you go further down and select what type of energy source they use and the total carbon impact per occupant and total impact per metre squared of that building. So yeah, that's my quick presentation.
Cool. Can you scroll back up to the top, please?
Yeah.
So Nick, remember we talked about kind of red-green. Now I think even though he's using it here, I think it still works okay because he has the little triangles that help with the direction as well. So in this case, going up is bad and going down is good, right? You're saving energy versus. We can't see this. Well, you can see.
We're old and blind.
So theoretically, if I clicked on near, the highlight action should have worked, and it should have just brought up that year, whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't quite execute that.
Okay.
But yeah,
No worries.
and they should have changed on the location as well. But,
Okay.
So I would have, I'm not sure about the black title and then the black sort of subtitles. I would have just sort of blacked the whole
okay.
thing out and then, inverse colored the charts so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can make the charts.
Instead of having the alternating colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to
Yeah.
do a contrast of the colours of the heat maps, white and black, but it didn't. Divergent palette I couldn't quite get the right colour right. So
The only thing about doing it this way though is the black bar, each black section you get to starts a new section. So it kind of breaks it up into almost like a three-part viz, right?
Yeah.
Each time you hit a black section, that's the start of a new topic. So,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just from using it so much. It looks like you did a black dashboard and then you put white sheets on top of it, so it looks kind of
okay, no,
it looks kind of weird to me that way. But
it's a very difficult data set as well.
yeah,
yeah.
it's not the best I've produced.
But I like the heat map. I like the little line chart on the.
I think the little spark lines are a really good idea.
Yeah, it's just execution. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, I guess.
What's the point in the floor plan bit at the bottom? You've got a little floor plan icon. What's that?
It's just
An icon?
it's an icon basically, just to give it some visual representation.
Sorry, it's
basi-
represented meters squared.
Meters squared,
Right,
meters squared.
okay,
That's
sorry.
yeah. So
And you could have probably used. Are you always picking the same building in both of those things?
yeah, that's where I
You could
tried
have
to.
just used a parameter instead.
Yeah, that's where I needed to.
Yeah.
But
That's okay.
that's
No
further
worries.
down the line. Yeah.
Or prostate source filters.
What's that?
Prostate source filters.
They're two separate Excel sheets, both.
But if they're both, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Prostate source filters allow you to do that.
Oh yeah. You could do
Just throwing Andy's new feature back in from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter. I still don't get the charts at the top. So you've got the trend line, the spark line.
Yeah.
And you're showing underneath whether something's increasing or decreasing. Isn't that based on the spark line measure that you're showing?
Yeah.
So why do you need the bars and the arrows?
I don't know, to be honest.
Because I think if you actually strip that out,
Yeah.
that becomes
So
a lot cleaner to
You feel,
actually read.
you feel like the bar is trying to tell you something else, even though it's telling you the same
Yeah,
thing
and
as the direction
because
of the
you've
line.
then got
Yeah.
the average line in there, it's like, why did none of the bars go above the average line? Oh, the average line's reference to the spark line, right? So what's the spark line showing?
I see, yeah.
Oh, it's related to the measure of love. Hang on, isn't it all the same thing? And so many thoughts went through my head, I actually just ignored what the chart was showing.
Yeah, the trick with this is showing that down is good and up is bad.
Okay.
So maybe you put like dots on the lines or something, you color those or something like that.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying now.
So I kind of get what you were trying to do, and I've done it as well. And I look back at some of my Tableau public stuff, and I do still have that stuff out there somewhere. But yeah, I just think you've added 2 layers on top of each other, when actually that top layer does actually all for you.
Yeah.
So
I think I've probably gone overboard on the just general.
yeah, I think you're just trying to do.
No
I think
worries.
you're just trying to do a bit too much. And I think this is actually a really good lesson to learn at this point, to say, actually, what's the message I'm trying to get across?
Yeah.
What did I actually find in this data, and can I actually strip this thing back so the message comes across loud and clear, rather than actually, I've got to look at these 8 things and then so what?
Yeah. That's got ya.
All right.
Yeah.
Good job. Well done.
Yeah, it's really good.
Marco, ready? Are you in here as C? You must be under here as C of E. That must be you. Let's see who that is.
I logged in with the thing you sent as opposed to my name or whatever.
Okay. Did it prompt you to? Oh, do that. Yeah, do switch to desktop. Sorry. Yeah, just do that. Digital. Yeah, just switch. So I think it's because you already joined. I don't know why. I think it was letting you share. It doesn't. It's weird. It doesn't let you share through the. Desktop. Meeting number in, which is 343-329-053. Join. I ask you your name. Just hit OK. Then you can close that. Yeah, close that. Yep. All right. Now I'll make you presenter. Mark. Presenter. So did it just prompt you to present? Yeah. There you go. Always takes us like 3 or 4 weeks to get the GoToMeeting down.
Thought you'd have learned by now,
You'd think, wouldn't you?
Oh wait, can I hide this?
Hit the full screen on the right-hand side there. Down. Right below where your mouse is. That's it. Yep.
Screen. Oh, this.
Full screen. You see it right there?
No.
Right there. You're right on top of it. Oh, close this window. Or
Yeah, that's wrong.
just move. It isn't to the arrows. No, those, yeah. Shrink.
Oh, okay.
Then hit full screen. Go. Okay. Yeah. Now we can see it.
So hi Mark, this was the original application, which is using the energy data as well, electricity, gas and so on. So I did a storyboard. It's kind of really follows a kind of a thought process more than I guess a finalized presentation, but I was trying to figure out what is in the data, what is it telling me, what the issues are, because there were a lot of data issues I found with it. So this first one just highlights where there's gaps in the data, some months or years are missing, and there's a lot of big, very big negative values, which seemed odd for energy data. So then I went in to dig a bit deeper and just look at the data by hour, and there's some really, really big outliers, like 3 billion or something. I think this one was 3 billion, 580 billion, and everything else was like around 7,000. So there's some really big, strange things going on. And then, so then I decided to kind of focus in on a data set that seemed to have good data. So I picked the data for Parliament for these 8 buildings, and there was no negative values in there, and that data for the full 3 years. So that was the data I used. And then, so these were the, I think 9 buildings that I was working with, just where they were, and the size represent the number of occupants. And this was the gas and electric usage for each of those buildings. And then this was a trend over the 3 years of the gas and electric usage in each building. And this showed some interesting things, like the gas seemed to go up in the winter, so for heating. Same for this building here, and here also. And then electric was was peaking around in the summertime, so July. I think it's trying to do something, I'm sure.
Okay, just give it a second. It's just refreshing.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting to see those different trends with the different utility types. I have no idea what it's doing, so I'm just going to move on. Okay. So then the chart showed that, so these are kind of the findings, and after looking at the data, the findings are that all the energy usage was going down for all of the buildings, which is obviously a good thing. So that showed in this slope chart, and then in the 3 years down here, these are all negative values, so you'll see that. But yeah, so that was good. But there were, when I looked at it by energy usage by the amount of occupants, there were 2 outliers. So these buildings were using about 2,500 kilowatts per person per year, 2,000, and so on and so on. These ones over here were using sort of 10,000 and 9,000. So next was to look at whether can we make any savings on those 2 buildings. So I've just selected those 2, and then I brought in the energy cost for electricity and gas, and then multiply that by the usage to get the cost, and then looked at if you were to save 5 or 10%, what would that look like? Or you can enter, a specific percentage to save, say 7% or something. And then this would then calculate if you were to save 7% of your energy on those 2 buildings, you would save 22,000. So so that was about it really. That was the end of the story for the original application. So then the makeover, I just tried to make it really a bit more simple, because I've kind of had a lot of stuff going on last time, and there was a lot of sheets, and so I just tried to have a kind of one simple message really, is okay, what can we save money? These are the 2 kind of problem areas, these are the 2 buildings use the most energy, and I just kind of changed the colours here. It's a top tip from Jamie today. Thanks, Jamie. So it's all kind of the same kind of grade of colour, but they still stand out. And I just stuck with one, just not, it wasn't really interactive, but just saying, if we save 5%, we save this much money, just kind of make that the big message. So I've taken away kind of all the interaction really, other than just hovering over those kind of things, but it's just a bit more visual, a bit more graphics. I put my first picture of the week in my visualization finally. So yeah, that's about it really.
Yeah, I think this is much, much cleaner. So I think the original one was good because it showed your thought process. So it's just a different type of, if you're doing like a presentation to a customer and you need to walk them through the data problems that you found and kind of your conclusions, that's a really good way to do it, to use, that's a good use case for story points. But I like how for this one you decided, screw the rest of that. I just want to focus on the message I had at the end. Basically, you just cleaned up your last chart Yeah, but I think the black works really well here with the oranges on top of it, or shades of yellow, orange, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You spelled reduction wrong, but that's okay. It's reduction.
Reduction.
Yeah. Nice. Good
Maybe that's UK English. I don't know.
Maybe.
You never produced before?
Reduction. But yeah, the thing I like about this is you don't really need. You could just look at it in print. You don't need the interactivity. The only thing is you don't know which buildings are which in the scatter plot. So
Right.
because there aren't that many, I may have gone ahead and included the labels of the buildings on there as well.
Right.
Because you have space to do it.
Yeah.
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 Or even abbreviations of the buildings inside the bubbles, and you could have made the circles a little bit bigger.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure how you would do abbreviations though.
I'll just shorten the word, so
Yeah.
it's Houses of Parliament, HOP.
Well, but they're individual buildings. It's called like one Parliament Street.
Yeah.
7
Yes.
buildings.
They're individual
I
offices.
think it'd be, I would just put the labels below each dot even, or to the side or something like that, but, so, and on the right-hand side, so that's total energy over 3 years, okay, and occupants per building. So I assume the two at the, I'm having trouble, and then energy usage per, so the two that are on the far, the two bright yellow ones, are those North Shaw South and 1 Parliament Street? Is that how I'm supposed to read that?
Right. Yeah. So that's the normal shore south and the one Palm
Okay.
Street. There's these
So-
two here.
I think for me, I would probably flip those axes, swap them around, because you've got energy usage as your y-axis in the line chart. So does it make sense to have energy usage, the y-axis on your scatter plot then as well? Just so you're, I know one's 3 years and one is an individual year, it's the individual values, but it might help it
Yeah. That
make
makes
it
sense.
a bit easier to understand. But
Then these two
that's very minor.
would also be
Yeah.
closer to here. Maybe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's good. I like how you simplified it. It's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I like
Anything else?
the colors that go in like with the picture together, and even like the gradient is kind of the same. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Totally intentional, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've just been playing on the tooltip because there's a lot of different size fonts and things happening in there, so all of a sudden it's not that easy to read.
Right.
If you're going to create the sentence, always have the sentence at the top,
Yeah.
and then if there's extra detail, pop that underneath.
Right.
But that looks like you've defaulted half of it and then go
Oh, I
out
see.
the other half of it. So you
Mhm.
can just tidy those up. That's not a major
Right.
switch.
Okay. Cool.
How did you work out the cost saving?
What's that? So I just took that from the
It's on their website, isn't it?
Because wouldn't the cost saving depend on how much energy they used to begin with because of percentages?
yeah, I took it from here basically. So I took the took the original the usage and plugged in the utility costs, and I took one of the percentages. I forget which one I took. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it might not be 100% accurate, but it's like
Indicative.
I just took one number as opposed to making calculating different numbers by.
Excellent.
Good job. Well done. All right, Rachel. Did it ask you to? Oh, yours is going to do the same thing. Okay. Switch. Okay. What's this? Sorry, this is my fault. So the meeting number is 343.
Yep.
329
329
053.
053.
Say join. Let me make you presenter.
Oh, got it.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yep, you're on.
Should I get rid of that?
Oh, that's mine. That's on my screen. Sorry. Okay. It's got a nice, interesting black box there. It's just, I think it's
Part of my
just go ahead
biz.
and ignore the black box. Yeah.
I'm Rachel, and this is my original application. It's about the infamous U.S. elections of the last year, and I could have done a bit more labeling and about what we're actually looking at, which I don't think I've even done in the makeover actually, but.
Okay, there you go. Now we can see it.
Okay. So yeah, what this this chart is showing is it's an area chart which shows the percentage over time of the poll results, and again the axis doesn't work, and the idea is that you can scroll through time and see what's happened. The main story here is that the green is the undecided. So at the start of campaigning,
It's about the same as
people, there were a lot of undecideds, and people blue is Clinton and orange is Trump, and red is other.
Was
So,
orange Trump on purpose for his skin colour?
no comment. And so you look over time, and
Oh, it's interesting.
see, there's not
Yeah.
there's not much change between the orange and the blue. That stays quite constant, and it's actually the others which are getting the undecided vote.
What does other classify?
It's be like a third person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was the main story that I could see from this data, and then from there I moved on to look at the lead that Clinton had over Trump. Oh, hang on, I'm showing it wrong. Yeah, so this is Clinton's lead over Trump, again through time, and so we this is in a very wide range, but we do see that there's some variation in spite of what we saw in the previous chart. And so this is broken down now by state, and I inverted it so that it was ascending, and we can see that from this chart it looks like at the very top the largest negative lead. So basically Trump lead is Kansas, so it looks like Kansas really likes Trump, right?
Yeah.
But then when I drilled that down further, this is other, and actually Kansas doesn't like Clinton, but they don't like Trump either. This is their other, and you can see this is So this is their other, and it's far ahead of any other state.
Right.
The problem with this again here is that I haven't put the date on, so this is possibly meaningless because it's just all aggregated.
Okay.
And so with the makeover, what I've done is just clean some of that up, but I've not done as much with the design elements as other people have, and so I've got tight enough who's leading, and again that shows.
That fits a lot better now.
Yeah, but there's no need to scroll.
And you switch the Trump color to red for Republicans.
Yeah. And others can be orange. And the lead over Trump is below, and you can filter that by state. actually they're both connected by state. So, and what's an interesting story here is that even looking at individual states, there's actually, you can see this kind of mirrors the general shape that we saw nationally, and that was the case with a lot of. But if you could go down and click through, and there's not much variation. That this overall picture at the top looks the same. And
so, what is the percent support representing? So, should each data point add up to 100%, like each day? Because I'm not sure how it's adding them up.
I wasn't able to determine that. I did notice that it did not.
Is the field just
sum
called
to
percent
100?
support or something? It
Yeah.
doesn't sum to 100. Oh, I see.
No,
Okay.
again,
Okay.
the
I
multi
gotcha.
was 12, so I don't know what
Okay.
the denominator
Then you did the right
was.
thing. Yeah. Okay.
And so we move on to the by state level, where again, you already know my punchline that it looks like Kansas.
I like how you
Doesn't-
removed all the color from that. So before you had all that color in there, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
And it looks like Kansas doesn't. That Kansas likes Trump, but actually, when we look at their other, we see that is not really the case either.
Yeah, it's good.
That's what Kansas looks like.
It's a rectangle. Yeah. That's
And,
good.
and that again goes by date as well. So with this filter, you can see how that changes over time. And actually, right at the very end, the other, right to the end, we've got Kansas leading the vote, wanting other, but
You had a bigger lead in Wyoming than.
well, about the same, I guess.
Okay.
It looks like they're quite similar.
Yep. I like the deviation chart.
Would it have made more sense to have all three categories or all four categories on that deviation so you can see the swing by state? So you have Trump, Clinton, other on that.
Well, but she's only showing Trump versus Clinton here.
True, yeah,
So-
yeah.
Questions, feedback?
I don't like how you have to scroll. That'd be the only thing that.
Trying to work out. Can you somehow filter down through?
Yeah. So your title says Clinton's lead over Trump by state. So if the story's about where Trump's winning, then you might want to filter it to just the ones where Trump is winning.
Okay.
And then your title could say Trump is winning in X number of states or something like that. And then everything would fit. You don't need a scroll bar then for your view. What's the purpose of the map?
So that you know where Kansas is.
Oh, okay. So if I click on Wyoming, then will it highlight Wyoming?
Oh no, it's not. Again, it was a story about Kansas.
Oh, I
basically.
see. Okay, gotcha.
Actually, I've lost the title, but like the original title is a story about Kansas.
Oh, okay. I got you. The overall title disappeared. Okay, gotcha.
Make the map bigger then.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Again, the map wasn't
Square in the middle.
maps. Yeah,
That's
the
not
map's
really the
not
point.
relevant.
Okay.
It's chart junk.
Yeah.
It's because I haven't used any pictures either until today. So
Yeah. You felt like you needed a picture. Yeah.
I like the way you included Alaska. Is that Hawaii as well in the map?
Yeah, Alaska.
Yeah, I like the way that's done because if you just used the normal map, Alaska would have been at the top.
Yeah.
So it brings it into proportion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks, the execution on that looks good.
Yeah, it is good. Cool. Well done. All right. Good job.
thank you.
Okay.
Lord Neil Lord.
Indeed.
That's even how you signed in on the GoToMeeting as well. Okay. Did it ask you to present?
Indeed.
Okay. Good.
I'm Neil. This was my original submission for the data school entry. I was kind of going for something, I had the Big Bang Theory idea, so I was kind of going for something that Sheldon Cooper himself would be proud of. So it's.
Are you a fan of the show? Is that
I am, yeah, a massive fan. Yeah, I love it. So I was going for something very exploratory and analytical at the same time. So I was trying to combine lots of things into one small space, which I think. So what works well for me for this is the theme that I got going. I spent a lot of time just thinking about like the words that are used on the screen and where they're placed. So like all of the titles for everything is paying homage to the TV program, which has titles in the same guise. So I spent quite a lot of time thinking about the colours and where things were. And the other thing that I think that works well is actually there's quite a lot of interesting stuff in here to have a look through and see what's in there. But that actually is probably the negative about it as well. There's almost like too much in there, and particularly like you can click almost anywhere, and it has some impact on some other graph somewhere else in the page. So it's kind of like I think I was going more kind of, hey, look at me, I can use dashboard actions and put lots of graphs on my page, rather than actually thinking about what sort of is I'm trying to create, or what kind of story I'm trying to tell here. And the other thing for me that doesn't work well, and it's probably the most important, I've actually lost the thing that I originally started to do. The original question that I had was how many times does Sheldon wear each t-shirt? And I've completely, it is in here, but it's right down here, and it's been completely swamped by everything else in the dashboard. So I think that was.
So one of your struggles this week has been not getting overly complex. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a big fan of the kind of ambiguous stuff. Yeah. I quite like that. But I think with this one, I think I just lost the plot. I was just going too far with it.
So which one's the seventh? Which one did he wear the seventh?
Yeah,
most?
exactly. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. That's what that is.
So one of the reasons that I time boxed you guys in the amount of time I give you is so that you can't. I'm trying to break you of those habits of not or of overthinking what you're trying to do.
So the data for this didn't even exist. I made the data for it. I had to watch all the episodes to get the t-shirt data. So obviously I couldn't have done that in like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
It would have been impossible.
Quality research.
Yeah. So but that's what I think for me that works well, and why I'm so happy with it is because of the thought that went into it. But it took a long time to make.
I'm sure that is available somewhere on the internet and you do not.
No, I searched and I searched and I searched. If you can find it.
So this could all be made updated for all we know.
Yeah, probably.
Fake news.
So with my makeover, I wanted to get back to that original question, which was how many times does he wear each t-shirt? But I was looking around for some inspiration, and I kept coming back to the old periodic table. So that's what kind of kept catching my eye, and I was thinking, it's got to be like that.
What made you think of that as your idea?
I was just looking at kind of data, science dashboards and science things. Yeah, that like kind of
Google searches.
Yeah, just Google searches of kind of all things science. And there is another Big Bang Theory dashboard that is shaped like a periodic table. So it kind of made sense to do it in that style.
Yep.
So then I came up. So then this was my final makeover for it. So you can basically hover over any of the t-shirts in the Sheldon periodic table, and it brings up a nice picture of it, gives it some more additional information. So the code RF retro flash made 6 appearances in the show, and it's got the average IMDb rating of all of those shows is 8.5 that it appeared in. Joe, it probably still doesn't answer that original question, which was how many. I mean, you can find the answer if you scroll through each one of the T-shirts and try and remember the number. I should have a bar graph, and we were looking at it earlier, and it just
didn't really fit in. Yeah,
it just didn't fit.
Yeah,
it
didn't work well.
Again, for this, it's probably a bit more fun because you have to look and you have to put a bit of effort, more interactive. But it doesn't.
What you could do is when you could make sure the one that's the most is the one that's appearing when you publish.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So make sure before you publish that's the one you hover over. So you know which one it is.
That is Manbot, which is that one there.
Yeah. So you could make sure that when you publish, that's the one that you
is selected.
Yeah.
And my question is, how these squares are?
How did you order the squares?
So I manually I basically designed the periodic table in Excel, and I went through and I gave each sheet a row number and a column number, and then that gave it its placement screen, which is again quite a lot of work because I wanted things to be grouped. So all the colours are themes, the T-shirt theme. So I group them all together to make it more complementary or look more like a periodic table. So quite a lot of work to do.
Sorry, why the GL1 is in one sort of one
There's
bar
3
chart?
GLs.
Yeah, and that's something I couldn't quite work out how to best deal with. So it's because the T-shirt is called Green Lantern. That's the first 2 words. So the code is made up of just splitting up the words and taking the first 2
Maybe you could have
letters.
done a GL 2 or something.
Yeah, or
say
said if the number of words is greater than 2, then take the first and the third word.
Oh,
or
I see,
something.
So those are actually different shirts.
Yeah. So there's Green Lantern green, Green Lantern stripes, Green Lantern flying. Green Lantern green 2. So just kind of a few tweaks that I needed to think more about. Yeah. But it's usually with me, I spend more time thinking about the aesthetics rather than the actual content in there.
I think what you've done here, Neil, is you've had fun with data, and actually I really like that comes through. So I've got no issue that this is an exploratory dashboard rather than answering a question. It doesn't say at the top which T-shirts are Sheldon wear the most in the Big Bang Theory. It says you're having fun with data and you have. So as a week 1 piece of fun and initiative play, I think that's cool.
The only thing that really annoys me about this dashboard, and I'm determined to find out how to fix, is why I've got the gaps between each
because
of
of the discrete fields and the way they're actually set up. They can teach you that.
And I tried making them continuous, and I tried adding extra dimensions in.
There's a whole lot of fun you can have with that.
Okay, awesome.
Crazy.
That would be awesome if you could show me how to fill up those gaps.
But most importantly, you haven't changed your tooltips.
I have changed my tooltips. Yeah, renames all the tooltips. That's not the field names that they actually come from.
You need to formatting of all the tooltips.
Yes.
And by the way, just to make you really depressed, I found the data set for you on the second page of Google.
No.
Yeah. I'll send you the link as well.
Let's have a look. So this is right. This is true, but
so you don't have to watch all the episodes.
This data set is incomplete.
Because I was published in 2013.
I started with this data set. It's incomplete. It's inaccurate. And I would have still had to do it manually because I would have had to manually go through and take out because you can't export the back end data.
But you're not watching 20 minutes.
But with Netflix, you can use the
scroll
bar.
She didn't actually watch them all. You scrolled
through
them all.
I have rigged the watching it. I basically used the scroll bar at the bottom, look for scene changes with Sheldon, and then watched it, grab the T-shirt.
Okay. All right. Good stuff.
Victoria? Did it ask you to present?
I think you're going to have the same issue as everybody else too.
Okay.
Okay.
The last results. How far away
Sorry.
type in 343 329 053. And then just hit join. And it should ask you to present.
Show my screen?
Yep. There we go.
So hello everyone, my name is Victoria with W and K, and this is my very first visualization in Tableau, which was at the same time submission to the first interview.
Did you intentionally wear a red?
No, but I've noticed that in the morning.
So it's fantastic planning if you did.
Okay, so I did. I worked on the New York City felonies data set, and I took Hell's Kitchen from Daredevil's perspective. So this is my first submission, and what I don't like about it is that the first slide, it's actually a story with story points, but so I was used to, as a marketer, to doing a lot of presentations, so I think that's why I intuitively chose this format. Yeah, and this first slide doesn't really say anything. I wanted to show off that I can actually select Hell's Kitchen manually on the map and show how it's placed on Manhattan. And then I wanted to maybe give a little bit of context, but it didn't really work out, as I just noticed that this scale here is total New York instead of Manhattan, so it's just completely wrong. Then I wanted to look, if I was Daredevil, how would I plan my time? For example, July would be really busy and no holidays then. And then there's actually 6 a.m. on Tuesdays, which is safe for like workout or working or whatever else, not being busy with crimes.
And is that just in Hell's Kitchen then?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, and we can look on different months hovering over. And then, as Daredevil is blind, I thought it would be really useful for him to know what he needs to prepare for. So I did this map per felony. You cannot really see them. Yeah. And so if you click, for example, on rapes, you can see that there were 2 areas where the rape occurred, but this bar here is not really sorted descending. So I quite like my first the submission, although there were some obvious mistakes. But as we train in data school, we do rather dashboards than stories. So I've decided to turn everything into a dashboard. And make more sense of the first point which I'm trying to tell. So 5.2 Manhattan crimes occurring in Hell's Kitchen, although only 10% of Manhattan population lives there. So that's like a crucial finding, which this should tell immediately. And then we move on to when to be a hero or a lawyer when we scroll down.
And it's nice now that your months are not, or your months aren't rotated anymore.
Sorry?
That's okay, keep going.
Yeah, and I've sorted the bar.
And is this, and you made this map a lot bigger then as well,
Yeah.
right? Okay, yeah. And if I click on a bar, then it filters the.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool looking.
Cool. I like it.
I like it. I like the colors. They feel like softer than. I don't know what it is. They're slightly different than. They're almost like pastel-y, sort of. They like pastel colors or anything like that.
Do you think that only works like that because the way the American roads are laid out? Do you think if you did this in London roads where they're all a mess, it would give the same effect?
Yeah, it definitely works better because it's a grid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might be a lot harder, where the roads are all curvy and stuff.
Yeah.
I would take the opacity down maybe, and then you can see if there's any small one, big one.
You mean in the when she's showing all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you click the red bar again, or click off of it. Yeah. So the issue here is if there's, so for example, it's hard to see the, well, let's see, where's the not the green, the one below the green, like the light green. At the top one, the second one. Yeah. Click on that one. See, those are hidden behind the other dots. So that's kind of the only problem with displaying it that way is the overlapping. You could run into issues there, but it's kind of hard to. The only way to get around that is to not use color on the map, but then it doesn't look as cool. So.
I would maybe also make the font a little bit bigger because I can read it.
Yeah. But I think it's good how your original submission, it just needed some fine tuning really, and some more cohesion with the story you were trying to tell. So I think you executed it a lot better.
That first map that you've got, the Daredevil, is really appealing when you see it as a picture.
Yeah.
It really draws you in and makes you want to have a look more at it and see what it's like.
And I like how you made everything else white so that it stands out. It's good. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, well done. All right, Phil, did you finish?
Not really, no.
You're not even in the go-to meeting. Are you just not presenting, or?
You just go through by the browser rather than through this. Doesn't work.
Yeah, if you start the desktop app, it'll just tell you to install the.
How do you
just start just go to gotomeeting.com, I think, or something like that. And just do join a meeting.
Did I somehow
Never right.
escape?
And then it's 343. Sorry, I'll take it away from you. It's 343-329-053.
phone call or?
I don't need audio.
Is it asking you to download something now? Yes, so just hit download. Add. Yep. Share. There you go. You're up on screen. All right, last one.
Yeah, I'll make this quick. We were presenting from our.
So present your original one first.
Yes. Okay. So. Yeah. This is my original one, and this is my current one, and it's a bit like spot the difference, really. So they both look very similar. Do we get rid of the? Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Can you go back to your original?
Yep.
Take us through that first.
Okay. So I don't know why this is.
There you go.
Looks all bunched up now because it's changed versions, I think. Yeah, I mean, so the second one, I basically replicated the first one quite deliberately, but the second one importantly, took me a fraction of the time than the first one. With this one, wait, no, this is. I'm not sure which version it is now.
Just is it on your Tableau Public profile?
Yeah.
That's your makeover.
That is my makeover, yes.
So where's your original?
So my original so my original is this one. As I say, they're very similar. The main difference is that with this one, so I had crime for across different regions, and it breaks it down and shows you how much crime for each offence there is. But of course, because there's, for instance, a lot more traffic incidents compared to homicides, that would make the bars massive for traffic incidents and very short for homicides, so it becomes pretty much unusable. So what I wanted to do was have bars that signify how that the change relative to the average across the different police force areas. Police force areas are similar to the counties, but not quite the same, which makes it a huge frustration when you're trying to get the map data for it. Well, for me it did anyway. So to do that, you want to get, so before I had the average for the average number of incidents for each crime, and then I just wanted to divide that, so divide for each region by the average, and I did that originally in an Excel file. I kind of found the averages and entered them in, and then kind of fudged it that way. That this time around, I wanted to do it using, probably the proper way, using level of detail expressions. So I could easily get a table where I had crime against region, and then I could have for each region, I could have percentage across. Just do a table calculation, have a percentage, and set it to compute across. The problem is that when you get rid of region, then of course it goes away if you've got a table calculation. So I used a fixed level of detail expression, and so I don't really know how to use those yet, and that took a while. But I basically tried every iteration of average and sum and fixed, include, exclude, and the rest of it to get it right, and I just about managed it. But the other difference is with the second one, I've got time. I mean, I've got time as an extra feature. That's neither here nor there, really. It's not that interesting. It just shows more or less. It's got something to it, but it's kind of decreases over time.
You would flip over to your makeover then?
Yeah, I'll flip over to my makeover, which is almost identical. Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's all fitting on the page, but...
Okay, so that's the average for... So what does the average line represent here now then?
So this is the average for each county. So
so is it like the national average? So
exactly, the national average. So for each they call
so were you above or below the national average?
Yes. Yeah. So at the moment Bedfordshire is selected. So I wanted to select London, for instance, and it should do for London.
It's just a slight delay. It's okay.
Yeah. I also need to clean up my tooltip. That's very messy. Very messy. Let's get rid of that. For the polygon data, you actually got like path and ID and various other things, and so that's all still in the tooltip, and it looks hideous.
Yeah.
The other thing is that because it's still sort of you've got many polygons, you can't link I haven't linked the polygons together so that if you type so if you want Greater London, it should be the outer ring and the inner ring. I think the numbers are all correct. It's just that it highlights inner or outer depending on where you click. Anyway, so robbery, pretty much this is all, I point out as well, it's all population normalized. So just because it's London, you'd expect more crime, but it's also divided by the population in London.
Crime rate.
So it's crime rate, yeah. So it was all normalized. So yeah, but still, even including the increase in population, if you take that into account, it's still more crime than average in that region.
Is there a reason that you didn't sort them?
No, not particularly. No, I should sort them. I guess you want to keep
change by county.
Yeah, you want to. Yeah, you don't. I don't know. It might make it easier.
You want to know
guess.
which ones are the highest in each area?
You probably do. Yeah, that would have been an easy thing to add.
You lose your more counties and things are moving around.
Yeah, you might if you want to compare. The only reason you wouldn't is if you wanted to compare by county. Just might switch around. But yeah, you could order.
Well, so if you wanted to compare bicycle theft across all the counties,
So here's quite an interesting case, Cambridge, because if you've ever been to Cambridge near the station, they've got loads of bikes, and I haven't normalised for number of bikes. So of course, bike theft is huge for Cambridge. But yeah, it's not really ask a question and it's got an instant answer right there. It's more exploratory kind of thing. But yeah, that's it really.
Okay.
under the heat map on is the what do the colours represent?
Yeah, I've changed the I've changed the heat map
sorry.
as well, so it's more sort of it's steps, and I think that helps to just sort of identify the extremes more rather than if you've got a gradual, especially if it's more of a spectrum colour scheme, it can be more confusing than helpful, I think, because you want to really just pick out, okay, that's really low, that's really high. But yeah, so the red is higher crime rate and
the only thing that's slightly confusing me, and I keep having to look back to the bottom, is that the darker grey is the very lowest. But when I look at it,
would you use instead of a single color?
Yeah, or not have a dark to dark colour with a white in the middle. Have a very light to very dark.
Oh, so just a single shade of red.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's my personal. That's just personal preference.
You probably want to look at that.
There always seems to be a white in the middle of most
the
of
only
the.
thing here though is that 100% is the middle.
Yeah.
So you could think of 100% as you would use a diverging palette because below 100 means one thing and above 100 means a different thing. So that's kind of why you would use two.
Yeah, that makes. Now you've explained
that
makes.
makes
From 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So you could have done -1 on all of these, and then the middle would be 0.
I have on the original actually. Again, I didn't really have time to finish it off. The other reason to do that actually is because if you're looking, select one for example, is if you're putting two charts side by side, you probably want them to be quite narrow and tall. So it would make more sense to have this sort of a deviation from 100% rather than, you see what I mean? So it would be, this wouldn't be 100, like this would be negative, say 30.
Yeah, so this bottom bar would actually point to the left.
Yes. And that would make it a much narrower chart.
That's what would happen if you did -1 on all of these.
Yeah.
It would make it like a bikini chart.
Yeah, -1, and that's what I did on the original, and that makes sense because you don't need all these bars. You just need deviation from.
Yeah, especially you want to know if it's more or less prevalent than the national average.
And it makes it more obvious that it's a deviation from the average.
It's good.
It's
I
good.
really
Yeah.
like the map.
Yeah.
The map's really good. I like the color choices too because they're soft. There's nothing too harsh about the colors, and that makes the red really pop out. But I think the dark gray, it's not like really black, so it doesn't connotate negative. Actually, I don't know what other color you would use for those because it's not bad. That's actually good, right?
A blue, maybe. Yeah,
I was going to say blue. There's kind of a cool area. It's not a hotspot.
But blue is
blue to
a
red.
loose color, right? So does that mean something that connotates?
Nah, I don't. I think you can get away with blue.
Yeah, I think blue to red would be.
I think the gray works well also because everything else is gray, and the only thing that pops out then is the red.
True. True.
Because you want the red is the attention areas here. So
Yeah.
it's one of these things you can iterate on 1,000 times and come up with.
Nothing.
Or test it with some users. That's
And
the
then
big
come back
thing.
to this.
The big thing about data visualization is actually without talking somebody through it, test it with the people who can consume it and see whether they just get it straight away. Because if they don't, then you've got to do something differently.
Yeah.
So that's a good way of looking at it.
The only other thing I thought of that is different from the previous one is now that you can select, say, domestic burglary, and that will also produce a heat map.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so it would re-engineer the map
I think
depending
so.
on the
It
category.
didn't get that to work last time for my original.
Very good.
So why did you choose a dark background?
Save the planet. It's less energy intensive, isn't it? Because the pixels don't light up. Always backgrounds, because I'm very eco-friendly. Any other questions? No, it's just because it's like dark subject and crime.
The
I think
in
they
the
looks
tested
nice.
that,
I don't know.
It's actually not true.
What?
They tested that whole white background versus black.
OLED screens.
Yeah. All right. Well done. Good job.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining in. We'll be back next week on Friday. See ya.
Bye.